Hi, my name is Aster Master. I was originally going to wait until I saw Moana 2 in theaters, but then I listened to the soundtrack and decided this video couldn't wait. I actually brought my recording equipment to my girlfriend's parents' house for this, and I'm recording it while my girlfriend's at work. As you may have noticed, I am against the terminally quirky, songs that exist solely to try and make us laugh but in an extremely trite and eye-roll-worthy fashion. The first video I ever did on this channel about Disney music was about how much Scuttlebutt bothered me. That video wasn't very good, and I've come a long way since then, but some things never change. Can I Get a Chee is The Rock, Maui's song in the sequel. Since The Rock isn't a gifted singer, it's necessary to give him a song that's mostly talked through. The original Moana gave us You're Welcome, which has been very well received by most. Chee, not so much. Okay, let's take it from the top.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, this is going to be another one of those videos where even the first line bugs me. Here's the thing is such a vague and unpoetic line. It's like songs that start with first things first. You're saying that because you don't know how else to start.
You're down in the dumps, you think you're way off your game, but
Did you notice the way he raises off your game? Let's play the whole line real quick.
here's the thing. You're down in the dumps, you think you're way off your game, but you could...
Because of how these lines are delivered, they feel like they're actually meant to rhyme, but here's the thing is actually an intro line, not the first line of the verse proper. However, our ears are trained to think of this second line as pairing with the first just because of that little raise in note. It sounds like an escalation of the previous line. That's a problem here because thing and game don't rhyme. The next line rhymes off your game with remember your name, which is fine if cliche. Then we have our first attempt at a Mirandism.
Don't waste all this energy, cause you got the remedy, and I know your legacy.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is known for his complex, slanted, and frequent rhymes. I've criticized them in the past, but to be completely honest, there's an art to that kind of rhyming. Lin can do it well, I have to admit. In Hamilton, this kind of rhyming carries the song's rhythm and keeps our ears paying attention. However, Lin-Manuel, these people are not. Here, it feels forced. Let's break down these rhymes. Energy and remedy appear to be slants at first because of their similar vowel structure and meter. Both are in triple meter, both start with an e vowel and end with an e vowel. But look closer at that middle vowel. You have a conflict between and I'm including that r there because r in accents that include it can present an interesting issue. I'd like to say it extends a vowel. With r being a soft consonant both in its start and finish, it creates a syllable that's slightly longer and more guttural. Sound it out. Energy, remedy. So I'm going to argue that this is a little too slanted for my particular tastes. Remember, in a musical theater setting, I expect rhymes that are tighter than I expect in a contemporary song. There's actually a reason why. In theater, you're meant to be able to catch lyrics right away, since there's story important. You don't want to be sitting there wondering what you just heard, because the song and the story continue regardless. In contemporary music, you can listen to it over and over again and pause where you'd like. Rhymes that are too slanted in theater can sound unsatisfying and distract us. Now, how about remedy and legacy? It's a bit better. The lack of R helps. I'll give it a pass, even if M and G or D and C don't really line up. It feels more forced than anything. And I know your legacy is that even the right phrase to use? Something about it feels off. Maybe it's because the right word would be closer to history. A legacy is something you leave behind for future generations when you're finished. Maui is trying to say that Moana can overcome her challenges because of her past accomplishments, not really her legacy. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, I don't know. That's kind of the name of the game with this channel.
You've got greatness inside, and you just gotta believe. You think you don't have the tricks, but they're right up your sleeve.
I'll give that second line some credit. It's a clever turn of phrase, and I like those.
These waters are threatening, but you bring the reckoning. So drop all the fear and the questioning.
This Mirandism works better than the last one. All three words flow together when you say them back to back. Threatening, reckoning, questioning. Drop all the fear and questioning is a strange way to say stop doubting yourself, though. I've never heard it in real life. This sentence might have worked better as drop all the doubt and oh my gosh, I actually see the words on Rhyme Zone, they're right there.
Can I get a Chee?
Now, I do want to acknowledge that this is a cultural phrase. From what I gather, it's an expression of emotion. However, not everything translates well into song form. Let's look at this phrase phonetically. We have the vowels E and U. Any singer can tell you these are two of the harder vowels to sing, especially E. In fact, E is often changed to something closer to E or A. A plain E can sound grating in the wrong hands, and it's tough on the voice. An U could also sound grating in the wrong hands. Let's listen again. The Rock is basically screeching these vowels, which makes it wildly unpleasant to the ear, even in a song that's meant to be kinda silly. Because this song isn't entirely silly, it's also meant to be a motivational speech to Moana. If someone made these sounds to me, though, I'd probably be more afraid than anything, especially since Maui looks like that.
Who are you gonna be? You're gonna make some history.
Okay, that's barely a slant. Gonna be and history. History is a triple meter word. That's why it rhymes with mystery. The first two syllables, histo or hista, do not pair well with gonna. Another reason these lines sound off is because the first line plays into the repetition while the second doesn't. The first line starts a phrase, then completes the sentence with the phrase. Who are you? Who are you gonna be? The second line starts the phrase, but completes it with a different phrase. You're gonna make some history. Yeah, I don't know why it's make either. You could have used create if you needed that extra syllable so badly. You're gonna create some history.
Come on, Moana, go get your destiny.
That's not even a slant. History and destiny are perpendicular rhymes. Credit to my girlfriend for that joke. Hista and dest-I. And of course, I have to mention the insanely forced kamana Moana. Similar issue, you've created this triple meter rhyme, but the first syllables, in this case being come and mo, do not match. I hear these lyrics and I am baffled. Maybe I am nitpicky, but to me, lyricism is an art form. You can be goofy and lyrically impressive. We've seen it many, many times, both in theater and contemporary music. I'm not asking for a sonnet, but I am asking for respect for an art form that I hold near and dear.
You need to level up.
In theater, it's important to use words and phrases that would match the character. Maui, being a character set in a time long before video games, should not be using the phrase level up. The song's predecessor, You're Welcome, does not do this. It has slang, sure, but not a phrase connected to something hundreds of years away from being invented.
Come on, Moana, go get your destiny.
Did they just give up on rhyming? Up and enough are close-ish, I'll let it slide, but because of the previous half of the chorus, our ears now expect a rhyme to continue up and enough. Instead, we get destiny again, which definitely threw me off.
Gonna get it? Let me hear it. Gonna get it.
Don't worry, I won't play every instance of that phrase for you, but it's just a reminder.
Here's the deal, that bullying storm god skips leg day for real. Can you?
So, obvious issue aside, that's what I call a rushed lyric. Dwayne starts out pretty slowly, then realizes he has to fit the rest of the line in, so he rushes the last few words. A problem this causes is in the meter. Spoken in a more normal, unrushed meter, the rhyming phrase would be for real. The next line it rhymes with, reveal, is close enough. But skips leg day for real is so rushed that it feels incomplete.
Skips leg day for real. Can you imagine the legend this epic voyage reveals?
Here's another issue. These two lines have no connection to each other. They are two completely separate thoughts. Line 1, this god is weak. Line 2, imagine what this voyage will reveal. Generally, rhymed lines are connected in some way. Originally, I was going to say maybe you could stretch it into something that makes sense, but I couldn't think of anything reasonable.
Think that it's doomsday. To me, it's just Tuesday. You know what? I'll come to play, come to play.
In verse 1, this section was 3 rhymes, slanted though they were. Here, we get 2 rhymes plus something completely disconnected. If you say it as to play, you could make this work, but he's emphasizing play like normal. Story-wise, it's also weird, because the song is supposed to be hyping up Moana, and Maui suddenly starts talking about himself.
And you're clever. I never give you enough credit.
Alright, for the sake of my sanity, I'm gonna pretend this was a one-off line and the lyricist didn't try to rhyme clever with credit.
And under pressure, you measure up. You even taught me a lesson.
Here we go. Double time.
This takes a whole lot, but count me impressed. Can't give up now. You got me invested. How many humans that I call a bestie?
If it wasn't obvious enough that a TikTok lyricist wrote this, here you go. It makes me wonder if the chorus was made for TikTok to some extent, like to be put under videos of people doing cool things, maybe? Maybe not, since it directly mentions Moana, but there's something about this beat. It's actually a good beat. It's catchy. Emily Bear is the composer after all, and she's a prodigy, so it doesn't surprise me. Of course, I've mentioned in previous videos that it can bother me when 2 choruses of a musical number are exactly the same in lyrics and instrumentation. That's the case here. It makes the song feel static because it's not evolving.
Who are you gonna be? You're gonna make some history. Who are you gonna be? You're gonna make some history.
Here's another bridge.
Turn to give a motivational speech. It's your job to finally practice what you preach.
When read aloud, the second line here feels off rhythm. It's your job to finally practice what you preach. Rewording the sentence would have helped with that. This line also feels misplaced. This would work better to start the song, since this whole time, Maui's been giving a motivational speech. Why is he saying that it's his turn to do so now, 2/3 of the way into the song's runtime?
Because of you, I'm a better me. I didn't even think that was a possibility.
Better me? Possibility. Learn your meters.
Out of mess after mess, demigod in distress, but now the roles are reversed. You're being put to the test.
This is getting to the point where I have to point out lines that are okay, like this one, because they appear to be few and far between.
Fine, cause we got a plan for breaking the curse, and even the odds couldn't be worse.
These feel randomly included, like there's a build-up in the previous bridge and it crashes down into another bridge.
You're being put to the test. It's fine, cause we got a plan for breaking the curse, and even the odds couldn't be.
Also, I mentioned expectations of rhyme before, and here's another line with that issue.
In the bed on the bravest and greatest of wayfinders I've ever met.
Met rhymes with bet, but the word bet is said so quickly that it barely registers. That's a problem since met is the big ending word. There's even a stop in instrumentals, but it doesn't rhyme with curse or worse. Disclaimer, this isn't always a bad thing to do. I've heard plenty of great songs that end a build up with a non-rhyme. It's a neat subversion, but the rhyme here is meant to be internal and it's barely perceivable, making met feel random. Then there's a synth solo for some reason. Whatever, it's a good solo. The third chorus doesn't feel any bigger than the first two, but it leads to a fourth ending chorus that does have some more pizzazz.
Moana, come on, unlock your destiny. Let me hear it get up. Let me hear it.
I had a lot of people ask me to look at the song, and now I get it. This song is pretty much a disaster. The through line is confusing, the rhymes are messy, and there are lines that are unbearably quirky. It's a great exhibit on how a great composer needs an equally great lyricist. Since words and music play off each other, one can't stand alone when creating a song that relies on its lyrics. Lyrics, after all, are the intersection of words and music, and in a story, storytelling matters. Much as I criticized him in the past, Lin-Manuel Miranda understands this well. I owe him a serious apology. He knew what story he was trying to be told, and most of the time he told it. Someone who got their start by writing TikTok songs about a TV show is going to have a long way to go in comparison. That being said, I feel for her. I also got my start in lyricism by writing fan songs for a show way back in 2014. I don't know how much time this lyricist was given. Maybe it's less her and more the constraints. Either way, we ended up with a song that I imagine will be a skip in many rewatches to come. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you like, and have a wonderful day.